there was this guy on YouTube called His Story, and I've seen him before. He has some pretty good videos. Um, and I'm not subscribed yet, so I'm gonna see if I should subscribe. I'm gonna see how his videos are, and I'm gonna see if I should subscribe. All right, all right, which is
The kid next to
512k
me squeezed
views.
his juice pouch out across my lap and started laughing. "I'm gonna tell everyone you peed yourself." He slipped out of his seat and drifted toward the door, the pouch still crushed in his fist, and my stomach dropped. All morning, the whole school had been losing it because my favorite footballer was minutes from walking into our room, the striker whose poster hung over my bed. If he saw me like this, I'd be the pee kid forever, in front of the one person I'd ever wanted to impress. I shot out of my chair after him, but he was already halfway down the hall, leaning into every kid he passed and jabbing a finger back at me. The whisper moved faster than my legs ever could. Kid to kid to kid, and catching him wouldn't kill it now. So I ducked into the boys' bathroom, wet a fistful of paper towels, and scrubbed at the stain. But the dark spot only spread paler and wider, soaking deeper the harder I pushed until half my thigh was soaked. A kid shoved in to use the sink and I twisted toward the wall, but he caught the soaked leg anyway and was snickering into the hall before the door swung shut. The speaker in the ceiling crackled on, and the principal's voice rolled down the hall. "Everyone, please give our special guest a warm welcome." My hands started shaking against my wet leg. That's when I spotted the lost and found Bin by the sink with a pair of gray gym pants sitting right on top. I yanked them out and shoved my leg in, hopping on one foot as cheering erupted through the wall. I got them buttoned and shoved through the door bone dry. The footballer was up front mid-wave. Every kid twisted around toward me, and the one who set me up saw his shot. His arm shot out, finger aimed right at me, and he screamed, "Look, he peed himself." But there was nothing there, and every head in the room swung off me and onto him, the footballers with them. Right then, the pouch in that same fist gave out, and the last of it burst down the front of his own pants. Now he was the pee kid for real, and my favorite footballer was laughing harder than anyone. The kid next to me squeezed his juice pouch out
That is crazy.
across my lap.
That is crazy. I have to like that. That's pretty good.
I was walking home when someone
Next one.
grabbed me from behind and threw a bag over my head. I screamed into the fabric, but moments later, it got ripped off, and I was tied to a chair. A big bald man stood over me. "Where's my $40,000? But I had no idea who he was. "You've got the wrong guy. I have 12 cents in my bank account. Let me go." His face twisted. "I remember your face from the casino. You're not leaving without giving me my money." But I remembered I had my mom's medication in my bag. I yelled, "I need to go home. My mom needs her medication. She can't even walk without her cane." But he scoffed. "I don't care about your mom. You've got until tonight to get me my money, or you're dead." I had no way to get that money, so the second he left the room, I yanked at the rope around my wrists to escape. I twisted and pulled until my skin burned, and one hand started slipping free. But then the door swung open, and he stared right at my wrists, his fists clenched. Trying to escape? I expected him to kill me, but instead, he said, "Your mom needs you home? As a matter of fact, I'll go get her. If I have her captive, you won't try to run again." I screamed, begging him not to as he walked out. But moments later, he came back, pulling my mom by the arm. She leaned on her cane, tiny and shaking. He laughed. She didn't even fight because she's so weak. She walked right out to my car. He pulled her closer. "You've got 1 hour, or you're both dead." Tears streamed down my face. I couldn't give him anything, and now my mom was going to die because of me. "I'm so sorry, Mom." But then she grabbed her chest and collapsed to the floor. I screamed, "Mom!" The bald man's face went confused. "Please help her. She's sick and weak." He rushed over and bent down to check on her. But then her hand tightened around her cane, and she swung it straight into the back of his head. He dropped, and she slipped the loose rope off my wrists and pulled me up. I was shaking as she dialed 911. "Mom, I thought you were too weak to fight." She smiled. He bragged that I didn't fight him, but I didn't fight because I needed him to bring me to you. Then I could take him down myself. Then she whispered, "Also, your dad is the one who owes him the $40,000. I gasped because my dad and I have the same face, and we're both brokies. I was walking home when someone grabbed me from behind and threw a bag over my head. I screamed into the fabric.
That's crazy. I feel like these are like so recent, so I just have to just go to popular. I've seen his popular ones, it's just I don't know. This one, let's go with that one.
I was stopped at a red light when headlights flashed across my mirror and everything went sideways. The airbag slammed my head back and guacamole from my DoorDash order flew everywhere. I couldn't hear anything except ringing. I crawled out through the passenger side, tried to stand, and my legs gave out. I'm on my hands and knees on the pavement when I hear, "Bro, what the hell? My brand new car. I just got it yesterday." An orange Hellcat was sitting sideways in the intersection with smoke coming off the tires. Some kid was standing over me screaming, "Why'd you reverse into me?" I looked up at him from the ground. "I can't feel my legs." "I don't care about your legs. Look what you did to my car." He pulled out his phone and started filming his Hellcat without even glancing at me or my flipped car. "My dad's a lawyer, so you're either gonna pay for my car or we're gonna bury you." I couldn't even stand up, and this kid was threatening to sue me. Cops showed up 10 minutes later, and the kid completely transformed, limping and holding his neck. He told the officer I reversed into his Hellcat for no reason. The cop took one look at my Corolla on its side next to the brand new Hellcat and didn't even ask for my side. He gave me the ticket and left. I'm sitting on the curb holding my legs when a second cruiser pulled up. The kid saw it and started limping again. The door opened and I heard, "Oh hell no." It was my dad's buddy from the neighborhood. He'd been on patrol and heard the call. He crouched down next to me. "Tell me everything." I told him what happened. He looked at both cars and shook his head. "I believe you, but without proof there's nothing I can do. Is there anything, any witness, any camera, anything?" I almost said no. Then I looked at my Corolla and saw it through the cracked windshield. The dash cam I installed 6 months ago to catch DoorDash scammers. Still mounted to the dash, right where I left it. Actually, yeah, I do. He watched me crawl over to my car, reach through the broken window, and pull out the SD card. He plugged it into his laptop in the cruiser. 30 seconds of footage. My car sitting still at a red light. The Hellcat spinning out of a dealership. The kid laughing right before he slammed into me. Everything the kid told the first cop was a lie, and now we both knew it. He stepped out of the cruiser, walked straight to the kid, and got in his face. "You want to tell me what really happened?" The kid backed up a full step. His fake limp was gone. He looked over at me, then back at the cop standing 6 inches from his nose. "You filed a false report, and that limp you walked in with healed up real quick." The kid started stammering. "My dad's a lawyer. You can't just call him. You're gonna need one." He was right. I ended up settling for enough money to buy 5 Hellcats thanks to a $30 dash cam. I was stopped at a red light.
Damn, that's 5 Hellcats is insane. You have to like $1 million. Is sort of expensive. Alright, I might have to subscribe.
I knocked out the smallest, weakest kid in school. While I was bench pressing, he cracked my ribs with a 5-pound dumbbell and smiled. That was Chester. He was 4'11", 85 pounds, and was the worst bully I ever met. His 2 brothers were 6'6", 300 pounds of pure muscle. Nobody touched Chester because they were terrified of his big brothers. I told the teacher, but he never believed that Chester had the strength to actually hurt anyone. I walked around with 2 cracked ribs for 3 months and couldn't laugh without wincing. A week later, my history teacher stepped out. Chester whispered into my ear, "Have you ever felt a tiger's claw?" Then he stabbed a pencil an inch deep into my back. I bled out onto the floor and everyone gasped. I needed 7 stitches. My teacher asked the class if anyone saw it. Every single student looked away. Chester smiled again. He was loving this power. PE baseball. Chester slammed a metal bat across my knee. I limped for a month. I still feel it when it rains. I didn't tell my mom. I didn't tell anyone. I knew I had to handle this myself. So I started kickboxing. 5 days a week for 6 months straight. I sparred with semi-pros. Got beaten up badly at first. Then slowly started landing shots and earned their respect. I stored every one of Chester's hits in the back of my mind. I had a college scholarship and couldn't afford to risk losing it, so I waited for the last day of school. I walked up to him and said, "Hey Chester, have you ever felt a tiger's claw?" He looked confused. Before he could say a word, I threw everything, punches, kicks, elbows, and laid him out on the concrete, unconscious, bleeding out of his smug face. A crowd gathered and went completely silent. Then his 2 brothers pushed through the crowd and got in my face. "Try that shit on us. Go ahead, try it." I looked up at both of them and said, "You might kill me, but I'll take one of you with me to the grave. I swear it." They went quiet, glanced at each other, then walked away. For as big as they were, they had never...
That's just... Bro, I'm subscribed. There you go.
My neighbor kept destroying our snowman,
Boom,
so I made
look,
sure the
that's
next
so
one fought
tough.
back. We'd spent the whole day building an
tough.
8-foot snowman, and it was just getting dark when I saw the headlights turn onto our street. The truck plowed straight through it, and snow exploded everywhere. My youngest was standing next to me and started crying. I didn't know how to tell him that some people were just mean, so I pointed at the scattered snow. "You know what though? Did you see how far the head flew? That was actually kind of cool." My youngest wiped his eyes and nodded. "It went really far." I smiled. "Next time let's build it right by the street and watch it happen." The next Saturday we built another one right by the street, and my boys pressed their faces against the window at night watching for the truck. When it came roaring down and demolished the snowman, they jumped up and down. The head went so far, Dad. We did this for 3 years. Build, watch, rebuild. Then my youngest stopped running. He couldn't get out of bed some mornings. The doctors gave us a number of weeks, and my son made me promise we'd build one more. So I pushed his wheelchair outside, and he sat there wrapped in blankets, pointing where to pack the snow. His brothers rolled the middle section while I lifted it into place. It took us all day. When we finished, I hammered stakes into the ground around it and tied rope. I wrote, "Please don't hit this one," on cardboard, and hung it on the rope. 3 days later, he died. I knew they'd come for the snowman eventually, so I walked across the street and knocked on my neighbor's door. My hand was shaking. The father opened the door, and I looked him in the eye. "My son just died. That snowman is the last memory I have of him. Please leave this one alone." He looked at me for maybe half a second, then shrugged. "That's rough and all, but it's just a snowman." I heard his son laugh from inside. The door slammed in my face. 2 days after we buried my son, I was lying in bed when I heard the engine. I ran to the window and watched headlights turn onto our street. The truck accelerated straight toward the snowman, hit dead center, and snow exploded into the air. The father was hanging out the passenger window cheering, and that's when I knew he had to pay. I went upstairs and shook my boys awake. "Get dressed. We're rebuilding it." We worked through the night rolling snowballs under the streetlights. My older sons didn't say anything, just kept packing snow. I built this one directly around the fire hydrant at the edge of my property, carefully positioning each layer around the metal. After they went to bed, I dragged the hose out and soaked it. I did this for 3 straight nights, watering and letting it freeze until the snow was solid ice. Then I sat by the window every night watching the street. My boys would come downstairs asking if tonight was the night. A week passed. Then I heard it. That engine. I grabbed my phone and started recording. The truck came flying down the street and slammed into my snowman at full speed. The sound was like a car crash, metal crunching. The truck's entire front end crumpled. The impact ripped the hydrant off its base, and water shot 30 feet straight up into the air. The truck spun, and water shot everywhere, flooding the street as the father kicked open his door and crawled out. When he turned to look at my house, my boys and I were standing in the window. We all raised our middle fingers at the same time and went to bed smiling. My neighbor kept destroying our snowman.
I forgot I was even recording a video. Oh, what the frick?
A woman in Target told me my neighbor
frick? Yo, I forgot. I'm so interested. This is so interesting. I'm not even gonna hold you guys. This is actually interesting. Not interesting. His story has earned my respect.
A woman in Target told me to take off my hoodie and give it to her son. I was in the checkout line wearing my Minecraft hoodie when a kid ran over and said, "Mom, that's Minecraft I wanted." She walked over, looked me up and down, and said, "Give it to my son." I told her no, and that my little brother gave it to me before he passed away. She didn't even blink. "I don't care. You're a grown man wearing a kid's video game. Give it to my son. He'd actually appreciate it." I almost laughed. "I'm not giving you my hoodie." She didn't move. "Just hand it over, and I'll pay you $10 for it." "I just told you my brother gave me this before he died. It's not for sale." She rolled her eyes. $20, final offer. I said no, and tried to step around her, but she grabbed the bottom of my hoodie and pulled. I yanked it back and held it against my chest. "Don't touch me." Everyone in line went quiet. She turned around and screamed for the manager. "This man has been bothering my son since we got in line. He keeps showing off his shirt trying to get my kid's attention. I want him removed." Her son was standing right there looking confused. The manager walked over, and before I could say a word, she pointed at me. "He's harassing my child. Check the cameras if you don't believe me." So he did. The manager came back with a security guard and walked right past me and stopped in front of her. "Ma'am, the camera shows you approaching this customer, grabbing his clothing, and causing a disturbance. He never touched or spoke to your child." She didn't say anything. "We're going to need you to leave the store." She started yelling that the footage was wrong and that I started it, but the security guard was already walking her toward the door. She tripped over the curb on the way out and ate concrete. Her son looked down at her and said, "Mom, I didn't ask you to do all that." The cashier rang up my groceries, looked at my hoodie, and said, "Cool shirt, by the way." I looked down at the little creeper face on the sleeve, and for a second, I could hear my brother laughing at the whole thing. "Thanks," I said. "It's my favorite." A woman in Target told me to take off my hoodie and give it to her son. I was in the checkout line wearing my Minecraft hoodie when a kid
What if your browser...
What?
I was in the
Wait,
mall.
What if you...
A woman...
Why are you trying to take a shirt, bro? Just buy one. Just gotta buy one. Just gotta buy one. Just gotta buy one.
in Target told me to take off my hoodie.
What if your browser...
I was in the mall with my daughter when 3 teenagers in black hoodies started following us. I'm a retired cop who used to bust gangs for a living, so I knew a threat when I saw one. I glanced back and saw the guy in front had a gun print showing through his hoodie. My daughter was smiling at her phone while texting, completely oblivious to what was going on. My hand moved to my hip to feel for my own gun. My heart dropped. It wasn't there. We were defenseless. I needed to get my daughter Aaliyah to leave without telling her about the guy with the gun. Let's get back to the car. We can come back another day. She looked at me confused. No way, Dad. We just got here. Let me check this store real quick. I glanced behind us, and the teenagers were getting closer. I grabbed her arm. We're leaving. Now. She rolled her eyes. Fine, but I need to pee first. She ran into the bathroom, and the second the door closed, the guy with the gun print was standing right in front of me. He pulled the gun halfway out of his pocket. Walk away, old man. Leave the girl with us. Now. This is your only warning. His hand moved to his waistband, but I managed to lunge for his wrist before he could pull the gun all the way out. Aaliyah walked out of the bathroom and saw us. Ah! The other 2 teenagers froze when they saw me pin their friend to the wall. I grabbed the gun off the floor and pointed it at them. But as I held it, I realized the gun was lighter than usual. I turned the gun over and saw a tiny orange tip on the barrel. It was a toy. How old are you? His cheek was pressed against the wall. 16. I looked at Aaliyah, who was staring at me. Dad, I know him. That's my boyfriend. I was just texting him earlier. I let go of him, and he wouldn't look at me. When I saw you with him, I thought she was cheating on me with you, so I wanted to scare you with a toy gun. I held up the toy gun. Aaliyah, after you 2 break up, make sure your next boyfriend isn't a little bitch. I was in the mall with my daughter when 3 teenagers in...
What? What? About right, twin. About right, 20. Yeah. About right, 20. About right. About right. About right. About right. About right. What? What? Brother, what? Oh my god, this is just crazy. This guy's just crazy.
I climbed into my bed with a grin, feeling my jeans press against the duvet covers. My dad came over and leaned against my door. I'm sorry I said no to you going to the party, son, but I know the kids there. It's too dangerous. He walked back to his room, and I instantly got up from the covers. I laced up my Jordans and climbed out my window the second I heard snoring. I walked into that party and was immediately surrounded by college kids twice my size. I grabbed a red cup and filled it with juice to fit in, then pulled out my phone to take pictures so I could show everyone how cool I was. Then I heard yelling in the backyard. I walked over with loose legs to seem nonchalant and saw 2 people punching each other. I put my hands up and yelled, "Fight," like everyone else, but then a gunshot rang out, then another one. The music stopped and everyone started running. I got knocked to the floor and dozens of feet instantly stampeded me, stepping on my head, my fingers and my legs. My red cup spilled and ruined my Jordans as more gunshots echoed around me. I laid on the floor, afraid I was going to die, when I spotted a bathroom. I crawled into it and shut the door quietly as I could, but another gunshot sounded out just outside. I pulled out my phone with trembling hands. Dad, I'm so sorry. I snuck out to the party. There's someone here shooting and I'm hiding in a bathroom. Please help. I instantly heard him running and grabbing his car keys. I'm coming right now. He hung up and I pressed my knees to my chest, listening to the sound of reloading outside. Then headlights swung through the window. Dad was running barefoot into the house in his pajamas. I heard him scream my name, but then a gunshot cracked outside. Something dropped and my whole body locked up. I went to scream Dad, but I caught myself, and suddenly the handle started rattling. I curled up into a ball, arms over my head, thinking this was it. But then Dad opened the door. Blood dripped from the bullet wound in his arm, but he just pulled me to my feet. We walked past the attacker, who was now laying on the floor, and when we got in the car, he peeled out, driving one-handed in total silence. The bullet stayed lodged in his injured arm. I looked at him, not saying a word, and just broke. I'm sorry, Dad. I'm so sorry. But he just kept his eyes on the road. It's okay, kid. You still called me, even when you knew I'd told you no. That means more to me than you could ever know. He pulled into my favorite diner. I'll always come get you, no matter what. I climbed into my bed with a grin, feeling my jeans press against the duvet.
Oh my, bro, that's such a tough dad there. His dad is so tough. His dad is mad tough.
First up, ChatGPT.
I was watching the New Year's fireworks exploding while my dog sat calmly beside me. Gringo did 2 years in Iraq with me and wasn't scared of loud noises, but then a lit firework came flying straight at us. I scrambled to get Gringo, but I wasn't fast enough. The firework went off near his leg, and Gringo immediately yelped. When I looked over, a punk teenager was staring at us and smirking from the pavement. Maybe now that dog...
Jordan? Yo?
Hi.
I'm filming a video right now. I'm doing a reaction
will
on.
finally start being scared of my fireworks. I balled my fist as I wanted to lay him out, but I couldn't hit a teenager. I drove Gringo to the hospital as he sat silently shaking in my car, quiet despite the terrible pain. The vet told me they'd have to amputate his leg. Gringo rolled home with me in a dog wheelchair for his back legs. The teenager stood right there with more fireworks in hand. Every day for the next 2 weeks, he set them off when me and Gringo walked outside. I gripped my head in horror because Gringo had started shaking and being afraid, something 2 years in Iraq never even did to him. I watched the punk bring a box of fireworks into his shed and knew I had to act. I called Hughes, the bomb diffuser I served with, and that night we were in the shed rigging his fireworks. We walked to his door and saw him through the window throwing darts at a board full of pictures of dogs. We rang and he opened. "Are you here to beg me to stop with the fireworks? Your dog can't take much more." He laughed, but then Hughes held up a sole firework. He stuck it to the punk's hand before he could reply, and I held up a detonator. "Now walk with us, or your hand goes boom." His face instantly went pale. "You're lying." But me and Hughes dragged him out to his backyard. Gringo was right there, watching. "Now we're gonna take your hand the way you took his foot." His legs began trembling, and he dropped to his knees, and I pressed the detonator. It beeped once, and I laughed. "Now I'll give you a 3-second countdown to prepare before it blows for real." I held my finger inches from the button. 3, he cried. "No, please, I'll do anything." 2, "Please stop." 1, pee was running down his leg as Gringo wagged his tail.
After
0,
that video,
I pressed
he
the
wanted to play
button. The
Rocket
punk
League?
closed his eyes
Wait.
and pressed his hand into the dirt, but nothing happened. "What's going on?" he said through tears. Me and Hughes got in his face. "I wanted you to feel the fear my dog felt, but because I'm nice, I won't actually take one of your limbs, even if you deserve it. But if I see you light another firework, then I will. You got it?" He shook his head like a bobblehead, pale and shaking, with snot running down his nose. I unstrapped the firework and sent him home with his delinquency problem resolved. I was watching the New Year's fireworks.
What the flip was that? Mate,
I
what
woke up at a sleepover and
Alright.
realized I had 2
Jordan.
hours to save my entire reputation before anyone
This
else
is my
woke
last-
up.
this is
I
my
reached
last- this
down
is the
and
last
touched
one.
the
This is the
fabric
last one,
and
okay?
realized I had wet the bed.
Okay.
I lay there completely still, listening to 4 other guys breathing around me in the dark. It was 5 a.m.
Hey.
I was watching the New
Okay,
Year's.
okay.
I woke up at a sleepover and realized, and then Brandon sat straight up, not rolled over, sat up. I froze with the backpack pressed to my chest. He swung his legs off the couch, stood up, and walked right past me. His foot landed maybe 4 inches from my hand. I didn't breathe. He kept walking, opened the bathroom door, and I heard him pee for what felt like a year. I finally heard his footsteps coming back. I stared at the carpet and prayed he wouldn't look down. He didn't. He flopped back onto the couch, and within 30 seconds he was snoring again. I sat there shaking for a full minute before I could move. I tiptoed to the bathroom, changed into my backup pajamas, and stuffed the wet clothes into a plastic grocery bag from under the sink. Back in the living room, I grabbed the sleeping bag from the bottom and started dragging it toward the hallway. It made a soft shushing sound across the carpet, and I stopped every 2 seconds, certain someone had heard. Halfway across the room, Josh's phone lit up right next to his head, making his whole face blue. I froze again. He muttered something, rolled over, and the screen went dark. I waited a full minute before I moved another inch. I got the sleeping bag into the laundry room, stuffed it into the machine with the grocery bag of wet clothes, and turned the dial as slow as I could. The click
Oh my
sounded like
God,
a
I
door
suck at
slamming.
doing
I turned it
pinches.
one more notch, and the machine started filling with water, and I exhaled for what felt like the first time in an hour. Then the hallway light came on. Josh's mom was standing at the other end of the hall in a robe, arms crossed, looking right at me. I opened my mouth. I spilled milk on my sleeping bag and didn't want it to sit overnight and smell. She didn't say anything for a long second. She just looked at me. Then she walked past me into the laundry room, opened the cabinet above the machine, pulled down a bottle of detergent I hadn't seen, and set it on top of the dryer. "Use this one," she said. "It works better on accidents." Then she pointed at a closet behind me and said there was an extra blanket in there, turned off the light, and went back to her room. I poured the detergent in. I got the blanket, went back to the living room, and laid down. Brandon was on his back snoring. Josh hadn't moved. Only one person knew, and she wasn't going to say a word. I woke up at a sleepover and realized I handed my son.
The average sleepover experience. That's so accurate. That's accurate. That's accurate. Alright. Alright, well, I mean, alright guys, that's the end of the video. If you guys enjoyed, well, that's the end of the video. If you guys enjoyed, then make sure to like and subscribe, and make sure to check out his YouTube story. Make sure to subscribe to him. I watched this one before, I just didn't like it yet. And yeah, see you guys later.